Okay, good evening, everyone. This is 8:30 p.m. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speak Group. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. I love that. Quick announcement. Tomorrow, if you're not aware of this, there's a Memorial Day picnic on this holiday weekend. It takes place at Peace Valley Park, Pavilion 3. Tons of food. There'll be a double speaker at 3 p.m. Large fellowship party. Everybody's welcome. It's potluck, but there'll be a ton of food there. So if you don't have any food, come and eat it. And if you got some food, bring it. And it'll be a beautiful day anyway. And we have a special edition speaker on this holiday weekend. We brought in the world's greatest chairperson. Let's welcome her up here, Kara. Come on. That's fun.
I'm old. I got to put my glasses on. Bear with me. Hello, everybody. My name is Kara, and I am an alcoholic. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous, and welcome home. So glad y'all are here tonight. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and principles of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from the message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of all Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new and from out of town that would like to introduce themselves? Please, your first name only.
Hey guys, my name's Idris. I am an alcoholic.
Hi Idris, welcome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Coffee is on at 6:15. Please join us. It's the best big book around. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD donations. All CDs are available free of no charge. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA has a Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find all our speakers. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. Now I would like to introduce a good friend of the Conscious Contact. Brian would come up today and just read Just for Today, Prayer of Recovery. Let's give Brian a warm welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian and I'm an alcoholic. This is a reading from Just for Today, a Prayer of Recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, I'd like to welcome Nick up here. He's going to read the AA preamble.
My name's Nick. I am an alcoholic. Amen. Welcome home. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, and we are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now with that, we have Idris to come up and read the 12 steps of recovery.
Hello, my name's Idris. I am an alcoholic. Welcome home. Thank you. These are the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge for His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Thank you.
The 7th tradition states, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. The group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Jane D. of the Student of Life Group a very warm welcome. Woo-hoo!
Hi everyone, my name's Jane and I'm an alcoholic. And I am really happy to be here tonight. I do consider it an honor and a privilege to speak at an AA meeting. And tonight I'll try to tell you a little bit of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So, I was in high school. I was not part of any real group. I had a small group of friends. And my best friend, her boyfriend, I ran into these rooms in Southampton at the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church meeting on Saturday nights. And he said, gosh, Jane, it's so good to see you. It's been so long, but I'm surprised to see you here. You weren't into anything. And I really wasn't. I was the type that I was a good kid. I didn't get into trouble. I did my work. Like I said, I had a small group of friends. We went to the mall. I didn't drink or smoke or anything like that. I got good grades, but I still wasn't one of the brains, and I wasn't one of the jocks, and I wasn't one of the, the weirdos or the druggies that we called them. I just was there, kind of a wallflower. And when I look back on that, what I felt was, I felt like something was really wrong with me. Like I was just not quite right. And I just couldn't figure out, I couldn't get this combination to life and living. I would look at other people and be like, how do they know? How do they know what form to fill out, what room to go to, how to open their locker, how to do all this stuff? I was just faking it through life. And I was absolutely terrified and nervous of being found out. So anyway, when I did get to, what I do like to talk about, I did nurse beers at those keg parties that we used to have. I grew up in Southampton, Pennsylvania. So what we did on the high school weekends, about my senior year, I started to be invited to these weekend parties, which I still can't believe happened. The parents would leave and go down the shore, and the kids would stay home, the teenagers staying home by themselves, and putting kegs, they put kegs in the laundry room sink, and then we'd all come over and have a party. And I would take one of these, I would take a cup of the beer, but I would never really drink it because I thought it was just so foul. I thought, how can anyone drink this? So I would nurse it just so that I had something to hold. But I never really felt the effects of alcohol, not really, when in high school. It was when I got to college, which I do feel that perhaps academically I was ready to go to college, but socially I was not ready at all. I had no idea how to be with people, how to make friends, how to be a friend, what to do. Again, I was just so lost and clueless that very first night my parents dropped me off. That's another thing, I'll back up a bit. My parents are not alcoholics, and neither is my sister. My sister has 2 wine coolers and starts singing. And my parents have been married for, it's now 60 years. They celebrated 60 years in December, and they just moved from a really gorgeous house in Southampton that I grew up in, that they lived in, they bought in 1978. So I have a lot of stability and a lot of security in my background. So why I was so terrified, I don't know. But they just moved to a retirement community in Newtown. So that's been kind of an upheaval for me. And I found that I didn't struggle as much with them leaving that house as I thought I would. I think there are some ghosts in that house for me. So anyway, I'm getting off track. Anyway, so when my parents dropped me off at college, I just stood there looking at them like, don't leave me. And they just said, bye. And they turned around and they left. They were never cruel or unkind. They were not abusive at all, but they were also very even. They also weren't very excitable. They never got very excited. I never heard my parents argue. Just very even, which was fine for my sister. She was fine with that, but I really struggled with that lack of emotion in either direction. So when I got to school that first day after they left, and I heard about a fraternity party, I'm definitely going. I got to see what this is all about. And I got there with some girls from my dorm who I, again, had just met that night. I didn't know anybody there. And I get to the party, and there's this big trash can, and it's lined with a trash bag, like those big, I mean, you all know what I'm talking about. And it was full of Kool-Aid laced with grain alcohol. And again, I really had not been drinking after this. I'm 18, and I really had not been drinking at all. And I knew that grain alcohol was stronger. That's about all I knew. But I also had heard you didn't taste it. And I thought back to those awful beers, and I thought, okay, maybe this will work. And those solo pub night cups, I had 4 of them, at least, in quick succession. And that's when all of a sudden I realized how everyone else knows what the hell to do, and I didn't. This is what I'd been missing. You know, I'd use the example of the jigsaw puzzle. If I could change one thing in the book, I would change not just one missing piece, but a whole bunch of missing pieces. It just instantly and effortlessly clicked into place once I had a drink and felt the effects of it. That whole night, I was in and out. I guess they call them brownouts these days. I'm not sure, but that's what it felt like. I was all this here. I'm dancing and I'm having a great time, And I'm dancing really well. Everyone's impressed. And I'm over here next. Then I'm all of a sudden I'm over here talking to people and making them laugh. And I'm just, the cats meow. They're so amazed that they met me. And then I'm over here. Then I'm outside. Then I'm all over the place. And then I did have my first blackout. And I do not remember getting home from that. Then the rest of the night was just black. I don't remember getting home, and when I woke up, I was alone, thank God, still dressed, thank God. And I obviously had not done anything to prepare myself for going to bed. I had just fallen into bed. And when I woke up, oh, okay, so this is a hangover. This is what I've heard about, and it was awful. I was so nauseous. It was that kind of hangover where you just feel like someone is grabbing your shoulders and the back of your neck, and everything in your head it just feels like it's full of this vile cotton, and I was very nauseous. But I made it to I had one class that day, my first college class, just one class. It was English, and I made it. It started at 1:30, so that's how I made it. I got out into the shower, got to the class, and I could hear other classes ending early, but this one wasn't. And I was looking at the professor like, oh my God, you've got to let us out. His name was Professor Woolley, and he was wearing the tweed jacket. He had a bobbed haircut, the little horn-rimmed glasses. It was so awful. It was laughable. The typical stereotype. He kept us till the bell. We never had bells in my high school, but as soon as I heard that bell, I knew what it meant, and I just bolted out of the room into the bathroom next door to the room, crashed into the first open stall, and just threw everything up. And I kid you not, I am on my knees in a public bathroom stall, vomiting, my face in the toilet, thinking, this is fantastic. This is what I've been looking for. And I thought to myself, okay, you overdid it last night, yes, but this is the first time. You're new to this, and all I have to do is learn how to drink right. And that's what I tried to do for the next 8 years. So I just went really fast downhill from there, really, really fast. I was just like a ski slope. There was no point in my drinking that I could call it social drinking. Every time I put alcohol in my body, I got drunk or I blacked out. That was a given, and I decided I could live with that. I was fine with that. If I'm gonna drink, and I thought that was normal. You drink, you black out. Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. So, at any rate, what I did when I did almost fail out. I had always been on the honor roll in high school, and I did almost fail out of school. I think it was my first semester, sophomore year, that I was on academic probation. And my response to that was to change my major. And I want to stop on that point for just a second, because I wanted to do something my whole life. I knew what I wanted to do as a little kid. And everything I did up to that point was to meet that goal. Every book I read, every volunteer thing I did, every class I took, the major I was signed up for, all of that was to reach this goal. And all it took was drinking for like a year for me to say, I can't do this and drink. I can't take this course load and drink. So I just changed my major, just like that. And it was my friend Brian, who was here a few weeks ago, and he has said, he puts it the best I've ever heard it, that normal people or normal drinkers change their behavior to match their goals. Alcoholics change their goals to match their behavior. And that was me to a T. When I heard him say that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that was me perfectly. And I didn't even think about it at the time. Didn't even cross my mind that, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was doing what I had to do so that I could drink. And I did almost fail out, but I had one class that was failing, and I studied 3 days in a row in the library, and I got a C on the final, and so I passed and I was able to graduate. Once I graduated, I was, surprise, surprise, the only one of my good friends and drinking buddies who was not able to get a decent job. And my friends were starting to get married, they were working, and I had accepted pretty much the only job I got an offer for was selling frozen food. And if you could freeze it, I probably sold it. And what it involved was, at that point, and this is before the internet, this is before, you know, all our phones, before smartphones, before all that. I would call and get my appointments for the next day off of an answering machine. And I'd write them down, that's where I had to go and take their orders. And then at the end of the day, after I did all that, then I would call that same answering machine and leave my report on the answering machine. And my appointments ran from about 11 in the morning to 7 at night. And I'm sure all of you can, that's a great schedule for a drunk. So I didn't see anyone. I didn't go into an office. I saw people in my appointments, but I only saw them every few months. So I was really isolated. I was at my parents' house because I couldn't afford, I was sleeping in my old bedroom. I couldn't afford my own apartment or anything because this job didn't pay very well at all. And I really thought I had beat the game. I'd wear the same clothes every day because that saved on dry cleaning. And I can only imagine, you know, when I would get home, let me back up a bit. When I would get out, I'd be out on the road and I would find somewhere to buy a bottle of whiskey because that was my favorite. Southern Comfort was my favorite. And I would get that bottle and I would put it under my seat in the car and I would hear it roll around during the day. And I was vaguely aware that I wasn't being very smart because I was in New Jersey and crossing the border a lot, whatever. But I'd hear that bottle and it would be like, you know, those white noise machines that make the ocean and the rain. You know, I'd hear that and I'd be like, oh yes, when I get home, this is what I'm gonna do. So I would get home and I would drink, a third to a half of the fifth that night, and I would stay out watching old Columbo reruns. And that was part of what I was doing. I talk about that in my story, the Columbo reruns, and I'll tell you one thing. One of my friends was really annoyed that when they edited my story for the book, they left out Columbo. They just said that I watched reruns until I passed out, which is true. And she got pissed off because somebody in the book talked about reading or watching MASH. And she said, they left MASH in, but they took Columbo out. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get upset about that. But Columbo was my favorite. I would watch, there was a part of this murder mystery, like Macmillan and Wife and McLeod and Columbo, all that. But I only watched Columbo. And like I said in my story, I started to videotape them while I was videotape, VHS, right, while I was watching them because I would usually black out before the ending. And I asked my parents about this phase. Like, didn't I leave the dog out or fall down the stairs or something? And they said, we knew that you were drinking all our alcohol, and it was pissing us off, but no, we didn't see anything else. And you know, that it was just your behavior. I was so hostile, my behavior, my attitude. So they didn't know what was wrong with me, and neither did I. I knew my life was miserable, and I knew I drank too much, but I never made the connection between those two conditions. It never dawned on me that, you know, that my behavior was leading to the situation I was in. So my parents said, we will help you if you want to go back to school. And to me, that sounded like the perfect, that's it, that's what I need. I need to get out, I need to just get out of here, I'm stuck. And I had no friends when I was living with my parents. I had no friends. All my friends from high school were gone. My sister was in college. It was just me and my parents. That was it. So I thought, okay, I'll go back to school and that will help. So I did that. I went back to, I was in Illinois, at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, the Fighting Illini. And I had season tickets. I don't remember any of the games. I remember the tailgating, and then I don't remember anything. And I went to every home game. The student section had it was a good section, and I don't remember any of it. But I did the first year there, I really did cut my drinking down quite a bit. And I still had a reputation as a really big drinker that could drink anyone under the table. And I would think, this is nothing. This is like, I'm not drinking, like I wasn't blacking out. I was at the football games, but during the week I was studying, I was making friends, I was getting good grades. I thought, oh my gosh, I am okay. I'm all right, thank goodness. Then I stayed there over the summer and in a sublet apartment. And I had graduated to half gallons of whiskey. And I had switched to Seagram 7, because even though I like Southern Comfort better, Seagram 7 came in a dark bottle, and Southern Comfort came in a clear bottle. And since clear bottles were now being recycled, I didn't want all those bottles in my recycling bin. So I switched to Seagram 7, which I could put in the regular trash in a bag that was hidden. And none of these things, nothing raised a red flag to me. Like, most people don't do this. And when I was there for the summer, that's when my disease started to wake up again. The geographical cure was over, although I wouldn't admit it, but I was starting to drink like I had drank when I was at home. For some reason, I had brought my Columbo videos, tapes with me to Illinois, so I was watching them. I was starting to black out. Now I was drinking in bars. Before I was just drinking at home. And I was blacking out. I got to be a really good darts player too. But I was starting to black out again, and that was worrying me. And then that last year, this was a 2-year program, and if I had had a 3-year program, I really don't think I would have made it. Because my grades, again, were starting to drop. My friends were like, gosh, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. And then the program ended. I drove myself back to Pennsylvania, back to Southampton, and I was back. I was back in my old bedroom. I was back. Nothing had changed. Nothing had changed, except I had a piece of paper. I was still in my old bedroom. I still had no friends. I still had no future. I had a car that my dad bought me. That was it. And I was absolutely baffled at this point. I'm like, I have done everything that I'm supposed to do. And I haven't done anything really bad. I haven't harmed anyone physically. I haven't stolen anything. I haven't crashed any cars. I haven't abused a spouse or kids. I haven't had my kids taken away from me. And I kid you not, I did not even think about, you don't have a spouse or kids. You don't have a home. You don't have a good job because you're drunk. You don't have these things to lose. That never dawned on me until I came into the rooms and somebody said it. Somebody said he didn't have those things to lose. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't either. And here I'm so proud of myself. Well, I never abused a husband. I never had a husband. It never dawned on me. It's unbelievable to me how clever alcohol is. Alcohol is so clever. And it's amazing how and this is just my opinion, how alcohol can seem to adapt to who we are, and at least in what I've seen. And it tricks me in the way that I can easily be tricked. And from what I've heard in other people, it finds what's important to me and what will catch me, and it takes that route. And that's a very, very powerful foe, just like it says somewhere in our literature. But again, I was just so frustrated. I figured life just wouldn't cut me a break. I took a job with a guy that I went to high school with. He was a total pothead. I was never interested in anything but alcohol. alcohol was my one true love, and I was very, very faithful. And he got high every afternoon, but I'm like, whatever. As long as I have my alcohol, I'm fine. And he was a designer for what was the extreme sports market, the X Games and that kind of stuff. It was just starting to be a thing at that point. And so he designed things like bracelets and keychains and just belt accessories that these athletes would wear or would be interested in. And I ran his business for him. And it was a very, very challenging job, but it didn't pay at all, hardly. And I still live with my parents. But what it did do was it took me to San Diego for a trade show. And a couple times it did this. And we had this trade show in San Diego. It's huge, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was ginormous. And I was really struggling. At this point, I was struggling to stay sober, but not because I felt I had a problem with alcohol, but it was because I had a physical situation that I was having major surgery in a few months, and I was really scared. I was not in very good shape. I was in terrible shape, and I was worried about just dying on the table. I would look at myself in the mirror like, you are not going to make it to 30. You are not going to make it to 30 if you don't stop. And so I was white knuckling it, trying to not drink and get this surgery over with, then I could start drinking again. Anyway, so I was trying not to drink. I didn't drink on the plane. I had discovered drinking on planes. That was impressive. That was really fun. So I had flown a lot in my life, but never drank on them. That was it. So I didn't drink on the plane. Got in that on Friday night, didn't drink, met with my boss and the guy we had brought in to work with us in the booth. Saturday morning, the Hawaiian guy, Mike, and I were working the booth, and our boss, Joel, had gone off somewhere, probably to get high. And Mike and I I saw, Mike was really good. He was, as far as a sales guy, he was amazing. But a couple had walked out without signing an order, and he seemed down. So I asked him, are you okay? What's going on? And he said, just this week, he had lost his full-time job. His girlfriend had left him. He got kicked out of his apartment, and he had dropped out of school. And I thought, wow, that's a lot. Like, what happened? And he said, well, I'm an alcoholic. And I've been sober for 1.5 years, except I just drank again this past week, and I'm a mess about it. And at that time, when he said that, one word went through my head, and the word was now. And it wasn't my voice. And I knew it meant, say something now. I opened my mouth, the words came out, Mike, I think I'm one too. And I do not know how those words came out of my mouth. They came out of my mouth. And that was the absolute unbelievable pivot, gift, spiritual experience, whatever, for me. And that to me was such a gift that morning in that booth. Because Mike and I started talking, and he took me to my first 3 AA meetings in San Diego. The first one was really big. And I think 100 people were there. And it was the microphone and podium thing. And I was overwhelmed. And it was the first time I had stood up and identified myself as an alcoholic. The second meeting, which was at a house in San Diego, probably a recovery house, but I didn't know that then. I didn't know any of that. But it was very small, so it felt very crowded. Again, a microphone and podium, I guess that's their thing in California. And I stood up and introduced myself, so the chairperson noticed me and asked me, he called on people. Well, you didn't raise your hand, you didn't do any of that stuff. He called on me, asked me to speak, or asked me to share, not speak. And I got up and I wobbled over to the microphone. And all I did was just share how I had gotten there that night. I had never spoken in an AA meeting or shared. This was my first time ever speaking to an AA group. And I just shared how I got there, how I met Mike and how we got there. And I actually, instead of like what I'm doing now, what I usually do is I look at the wall over there sometimes when I get, I just look back. I did look at the people's faces when I was talking. I looked at everyone's faces and I could feel it. It was just a rush of understanding, empathy, love, concern. And I swear the people, two of them, if they haven't changed over the last 30 years, I would recognize them on the street if I walked past them. One woman in particular. That night, that was when I signed the deal in my heart. This is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. As the juxtaposition was me in the bathroom stall vomiting, thinking that alcohol was the answer. That this is the answer in front of me. And I think back on that, how given what I know now over the past 30 years of being sober versus how certain I was back then, this is it. I just need to do this. I don't know what it is or how to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. And I came back to Pennsylvania and really threw myself I went to, the first meeting was in Ivyland that I went to. I didn't understand anything. And the woman who was chairing, her name was also Jane. So I assumed that she was in charge of AA in that area. So I went up to talk to her and ask her what's going on. And she didn't really seem to know a whole lot. She knew about the meeting she was chairing. And oh my God, what a ride. Oh my word, what a ride. But I cannot even, there's no way I could even put into words how grateful I am for what AA has given me. One thing I do want to say before I forget, because I have been known to forget this, is that Mike, the Hawaiian guy, is still sober. In fact, he just celebrated 31 years in February. He is 30 days behind me, which I'm always pointing out to him. And he's like, I'm always trying to catch up. But we did meet in 2017, right after he had 25 years and I had 25 years in December. We met up because my family went to Hawaii for spring break. I hadn't seen him in 25 years and we had lunch together. And it was so, so wonderful. It was just so amazing. It was so amazing. He has 2 daughters who are in college. He and his wife have been married now, I guess, 25 years or 20, not at that point, but by now, 25 years. And I'm headed out to Hawaii again in July, hoping I'll see him again. He is surfing in a surf contest in South America during the week that I'm going to be out there, so I'm not sure if I'll see him, but he has 3 businesses. He's still in sales. He goes to Bali in Indonesia and finds things to sell in his retail stores on Kauai. And I think one of those stores had to close because of COVID and the travel restrictions. But anyway, his daughter, both daughters are in college, I think now. It's amazing. It's a miracle. It is a miracle that, because he had told me when we met in 2017 that if he hadn't picked up a drink that week, would he have even said anything to me? Would he have even been in a bad space? Would I have even noticed? I don't want to overanalyze any of that. He doesn't want to either, but we just sort of thought it's meant to be. This was the way it was meant to work out. And it has. And for me, I feel that at least from what I've seen, a lot of us get these opportunities. A lot of us get these gifts. A lot of us get these messages or these gifts. To me, the mystery is why some of us aren't able to grab onto them and hang onto them. And I can't answer that question, but I can say how grateful I am that I was able to hang on to the gift I was given. I guess it's a little over 30 years ago, or 31 years ago now. But so I will talk a little bit about how the book happened. My friend was a Grapevine rep, and she had said that they were looking for stories for the 4th edition, and I thought, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I had no thought of actually being in the book. I just thought writing it out sounded like a great idea. I was 6 years sober at that point. It was 1998, and I'm trying to figure, I guess I was 33 years old at that point. And if I did my math right, which is not necessarily, I may not have, but I think so. Anyway, so I wrote it out on one of those, I typed it out on one of those little computers that's like, you know, like this, putty, and it has a little tiny screen, and when you type, the letters come up in green. And I printed it out on a dot matrix printer. And I still look, I can't even, I went to Palo Alto last summer, and the History of Computing Museum had my little computer in there, or one of them. like, oh my God, my possessions are in a museum. That's quite a blow. But you know, with computers, everything moves so fast, whatever. I tell myself whatever I need to tell myself. So yeah, I read it, I slept on it, and the next day I made a couple changes, and then I sent it in and thought nothing else of it. Really thought nothing else of it. It just felt good to do. It felt kind of like a 4th and 5th step a little bit. And then I saw in the Grapevine that they were trying to figure out, you know, they were down to like 40 some stories, and they were going to choose half of them, and I thought, you know what, I sent that in like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I've moved since I wrote it and sent it in, so my forwarding address would not, the post office won't forward it because I had moved more than 2 years ago from when I sent it in. So where would I get I emailed the editor of the Grapevine and explained to him that, you know, this is what I had done, and I know it was a long shot, but I sent my story in, and I get an email later that night, that same night, from the literature committee woman head, and she said, your story's still under consideration, so give us your new contact information. And oh my gosh, I almost fainted right there. Sent that in. And she told me about when I would expect an answer. So I'm ready. You know, I'm ready with my, I was expecting a package, you know, with my story, like a manuscript, and I would have to initial any changes, or, you know, I'd have to help them adjust it or whatever. So when a little business envelope showed up, I thought, oh, okay, they didn't choose my story. When I opened the envelope, there were 2 pieces of paper in it. And one piece of paper said, we want to use your story. And the second piece of paper said, sign it over. So talk about keeping it simple. They did want to make changes. They just didn't care what I thought about it. Imagine that. They changed the title. That was not my Student of Life was not my title. And they also, they took some stuff out. They cut some stuff to make some stuff. They took out the Columbo piece. So, like I've already mentioned. But at any rate, I just think of that as such a gift. It is such, at first I was very nervous. I was very worried. What's going to happen? What are people going to think of me? I talked to my sponsor at the time. My sponsor at the time was the one I called my mean sponsor. I have my nice sponsor right now, but this was my mean sponsor. And she was, at that time she was about 35 years sober, and she had gotten sober in Akron. So I was just in awe. And I said, Trana, what if like I get put on some pedestal and people think I'm a guru or something? And she, and her voice, I can still hear it. And why would they do that? Because you write well? And I thought, okay, yeah, that was the dish rag in the face that I needed. It's not, they're trying to reach more people. They're trying to reach more people with a bigger variety of stories. So my story must be quite basic, straightforward, garden variety drunk, and I just told it well. But I will tell you one of the greatest gifts of having that story in the book. First of all, I hear from people all over the country that say they read my story and it helped them, and that's amazing. That's humbling. That is really humbling. In addition, because I was so young when I got sober, I was 26, and I know they get sober even younger these days. Of course I went through that phase, several phases of, I was young, I was, maybe it was just a phase. Maybe my drinking was just a phase, and I haven't had a drink in a long time, so I'm probably better now. But now, I can say to myself, if the literature committee of the General Service Office of Alcoholics Anonymous thinks that your story belongs in the big book, then guess what? You're a drunk. And ever since then, I truly have never had those thoughts come back again. Even if I question myself, I'm not questioning the literature committee. So it has been quite a wild ride. Sobriety has given me unbelievable. I'd say that it's not sobriety that gave me these things. It's being sober that made me capable of making better decisions and being open to certain risks and seeing which risks were really and truly foolhardy and which risks would be worth taking. And when it was time it's okay to play it safe. I didn't know that stuff before. I didn't understand that. And even if I get confused today or uncertain, I have a way that I can just sit back. I don't have to make quick decisions. I don't have to make rushed, uneducated choices. I know, and I've met the best people. I have really good friends today, and I know how to meet people. I know how to find these friends. I know how to stay with these friends. I know how to nurture and encourage good friendships. In the back of my story, I talk about that I was finally in an apartment, financially supporting myself, and I was planning to buy a home, and then I had found a good job with a good future, and then I had been dating someone for, I think at that time it was 5 years, instead of, just one-night stands and prolonged one-night stands, I think I called them. Well, I can confirm that I did buy a house the following year. I did, the man that I had been involved with, we did get married, and I'm still with that same job. I've been there 28 years. I was there 28 years in April, and I'm retirement eligible at this point. If you add up my age and my years of service, I am actually retirement eligible, which is really weird to think about. But anyway, one thing that I do have to talk about is that my husband and I, oh my goodness, we were so young in sobriety. Both of us had about a year. I had a little over a year, he had just about a year. I heard somewhere that getting involved in a relationship in AA is like throwing Miracle-Gro on all your character defects. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly. And I read one of the books, The Grapevine is putting out books of a lot of articles based on certain topics. There's like 20 of them. And I read 10 pages of one of those books every day. And one I just read recently was talking about finding love on AA campus. And one sponsor had told his sponsee, the odds are good, but sometimes the goods are odd. And that was me and my husband. Oh my goodness, we were a mess. I don't know how we made it, I really don't. But we took a while. We got married after being together for 8 years. and talk about a roller coaster, but we both stayed sober. We both stayed sober. We had our own programs, different meetings, you know, we had different circles of friends. We knew some of the same people, but we had different circles of friends, that kind of thing. And almost exactly 3.5 years ago, he passed away unexpectedly in his sleep in our bed, and I found him. He had gone up for a nap, and he seemed perfectly fine. I talked to him, and he didn't wake up. He just didn't wake up. He had a heart condition, and we knew this, but we thought we were on top of it. He had just seen his cardiologist. And our daughter at that point was 13. And let me tell you, this has been hell. This has been horrible. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And it's, you know, it's part of life. It's part of life. But I wasn't expecting it, and I don't know what's worse, expecting it or not expecting it. Obviously they're both awful. And I can't even explain, I just became completely unmoored, lost my grasp on reality, lost my grasp on my security, I felt like I was floating, not really floating, but caught in a violent ocean of just chaos and confusion. And I don't even know how to explain it. I was just out of my mind. But in the back of all that, always just said to myself, do not drink. Do not drink. I didn't say to myself, this too shall pass. I didn't say to myself anything else. I just said, do not drink. Everything else was on remote. I was on remote control, going to my meetings when I could stop, like just sobbing without any warning that it was coming. It really, I mean, I just felt like half of my body had been ripped apart. And it's funny because only 2 weeks or 3 weeks after he died, I had been asked to speak up in the Poconos somewhere. And I didn't think I could do it. I really didn't think I could do it, but I did it. It was a meeting like this one, with a microphone, speaker, large group. And I talked about it. And there have been connections from that meeting that have carried me through. I can get through anything sober. There's never, ever any reason to drink. Ever. There's no good reason to drink. And I have seen people, and I can think of 5 people in this program, off the top of my head, who've lost children. Suicide, accidents, cancer, and they are sober. And before my husband died, I would look at them like, God, I don't know if I could do that. Now I know that I can. I know it would be, I also know how painful it would be. But we all can do it, I believe. This program, it is a miracle. We are all miracles. It's not just me and my friend Mike. We are all miracles. We are alcoholics and we are not drinking today. That is a miracle. And that's why when Ron asked me to speak, first of all, I was truly humbled, truly honored, and said yes as soon as I could. Because I do believe it is an honor and a privilege to speak at an AA meeting, like I said before. And this is the answer. This right here. And I hope I never, ever turn my back on what I've been given in this program. And I think that's all I have. Thank you again for asking.
Wow, Powerful talk. Thank you very much, Jane. That's a very powerful talk. And our group, you know, it's we love doing this. It's a group of service, and we have commitments every Sunday night in Quakertown, carrying this message to a treatment center. If you'd like to get involved and come, please see us after the meeting. We'd like to be on the front lines and carrying this message to the most sordid spots. In fact, like this group has given away a couple hundred big books last year. We just purchased 500 of them. So we give them away to treatment centers because we know how powerful that is. And a lot of them don't even have access to that. They don't hear a message of hope and recovery. And I knew that was vital in my part of my recovery. So if you'd like to get involved, just see us after the meeting. There's Nick over there. He knows plenty of us. And hang out afterwards with the food. Let's thank our hard-working coffee man, Ed, back there. 14 years of coffee service there. Coffee college, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's thank Jane one more time. It's customary for us to form a line up here, thank our speakers formally. They come here at their own time and expense, hang out for the meeting after the meeting, and we got a nice way of closing if you care to join us. Take a moment of silence, do with it what you like. If you care to join us, we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. See you at the picnic tomorrow.